Okay, good evening, fellow members and friends. This is Ng Ji Sing speaking to you on this topic, how to manage your retirement income. So, since this is something quite so-called involved, we would like to have this disclaimer that is the information and materials provided in this talk is for education purpose only. Nothing presented in this talk should be construed to be a recommendation to buy or sell any specific security. The information, software, and techniques presented should only be used by investors who are aware of the risks inherent in trading. Singapore Microcomputer Society, SMS, and its executive committee have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with this talk. All right. So, as an introduction, if you are approaching the off-ramp to retirement, that means you are either because of age or because of health or whatever reason, then it's good time to start to think seriously. And the first thing on your agenda should be how to protect what you have saved. Why this is so important? Because now you have all the time in the world on hand. So likely you will find all ways and means to so-called spurt or spend on your time. Can it be, could be on hobbies, could be on investment, or could be on traveling, or going to treat your good friends to some high-class places to eat and dine. Yeah? So why you need to save? Because we need to ensure that you have enough income throughout your retirement period. For many of us, especially those of us living in Singapore, because of the good so-called healthcare system that we have, and we have so-called shelter from quite a lot of natural disasters of typhoon, on all those natural disasters or flood and all that. So in that sense, we are quite fortunate. We live in this country where our lifespan is in a way above the average of many countries. According to our so-called projection, on last time on average, the male can live up to 80 years and the female 85. I think now we have upgraded to higher numbers already. So after all, you have worked so hard to come to this retirement area. So definitely we'd like you to enjoy it without having to worry too much about your money. That means we have to think ahead and plan for a retirement that may last 30 years or longer. Some may not agree fully, or some may say, I don't wish to live so long. I think I hit maybe 80 years. I already happy with those so-called years of age already. Because if you read in the news or look at some of the newspaper article about countries like in Japan, this the island what I call the Okinawa. We have a lot of centurion, all live up to 100 years old and so. And then surprisingly, many of them are so-called living alone. They are not so-called staying in the retirement village or South. Like they still continue their personal lifestyle and all these things. And they walk and they go to the so-called the mountains to work and all that. So they have very so-called a lot of opportunities to so-called sweat it out and make use of all their limbs. So in that sense, uh, they are not like some of us, unfortunately, that when you hit the age of 60 or so, because of all the illness that you have or because of your bad habits, then you will be relying a lot on drugs, and then sometimes you need so-called caregiver to push you around on wheelchairs and all those things. So this brief introduction is trying to so-called bring you into this situation of retirement life. I think top on our list, whether you like it or not, is you have to really plan for your healthcare costs. Of course, those who are not in the so-called the senior lifestyle, the people, you may not be so concerned or fearful of this subject of healthcare costs. But for those who are there, you'll notice that some of them, because of the certain illnesses they have or sickness, the medication they have to use is like their daily meals. It's something similar to their meals. You have this drug, that drugs, and all these things to take care of various type of illness and all this. So, and if the so-called some of the illness, you may even have to spend quite substantially on the drugs. So that's why you can see that, fortunately or you can call unfortunately or fortunately, in Singapore government has a so-called go into many programs to support or to assist those so-called the not so the economically or socially not so well off those population to be able to have this subsidized healthcare cost, so that they can at least continue to have live on in spite of all these so-called medical issue. Next, we have to worry about this because of our good healthcare system. So by and large, whether you like it or not, we were able to live longer than many of the other people in the other world. But living longer can be good or not so good, because if you are economically self-sufficient, or you have children or sibling, or you got something to fall back on, then of course you will be in a better position than others. But then, because of this subject called inflation that is happening now because of war, or because of the oil prices are so high, so or the supply chain is disrupted, so the food supply chain has been disrupted, so that you'll find that many things that we used to able to enjoy, simple things like bread, some or the noodles and all these things, in the past it won't cost so much. Right now, you go to the hawker center or you go to market to buy, you find that you have to pay up more money to buy a similar type of quantity of good of the so-called stable food. We find that things like flour, bread, and noodles, all those staple food that we Asian eat. Of course, for us or for those people who have saving and all these things, the next question you have to ask yourself is, do you position yourself or position your money to be invested so that at least you can so-called prevent the purchasing power? That means in case the inflation bite us, so your $1 still can buy $1 worth of goods now and 5 years later or 10 years later. Otherwise, the $1 worth of goods that you buy now, maybe you may have to pay 120 or 130 as you go along, and you may go higher and higher. The other point is it's a question of discipline and management. In fact, during the early stages of when when Singaporeans start to retire at the age of 55, many a time, because most of these people, especially for the lower echelon of people, or even some other working class people, suddenly they have access to their CPF money. They say, wow, so much money, like in Liao, cannot finish like that. They thought, wow, suddenly I like a lottery, They thought. So many a time they fail to have a proper management of their own so-called hard-earned saving in the CPF, so-called the nest nest egg. So some of them, unfortunately, are being cheated by a lot of people to get involved in some investment scheme, purchase of housing in Batam or nothing, or go and start a second family over there, or a lot of funny things that in their normal life they may not behave like that, but because suddenly they are so-called loaded with so much money on hand, so they are quite itchy hand. So and then a lot of those other people, their so-called friends, will try to play on you and then try help you to spend it. So you don't have a proper discipline, you drain up your egg nest pretty soon. That was happened early on for the earlier group of retirees. Okay, just now it's just a headline. Now we go into the details. Plan for healthcare costs. So with longer lifespan and medical costs that historically have risen faster than general inflation, practically, particularly for long-term care. So managing healthcare costs is important for retirees. Uh, as I also mentioned earlier, retirement planning conversation should include a discussion on the impact of long-term care costs have on individual and their family's future. There are times that for us, if you start your family life earlier, then of course by the time you so-called retire or what, your assuming that you have a family and you have children, then chances are your children should be able to so-called bring home something to put money on the table for you all. Right? Of course, each family unit is different. Some cases, the family, the children may be uh, grateful, or they are typically have this uh, Asian or the Confucian mentality. Uh, when they are young, their parents take care of them. So when the parents old, they will in turn return to take care of their parents. So the typical Confucian or Asian family thinking may do so. But the so-called newer group of thinkers or those children, young people, may have a different thinking. Many a time, fortunately or unfortunately, especially if they are educated in the English media or English educated, chances are they will have a very so-called self-centered type of mentality. So everything they will think for themselves and they will save for their own so-called needs, or they will spend for their own needs, whether you can consider it a necessity or non-necessity. That never mind. Sometimes, in order to fulfill their so-called selfish need, they did not contribute to the family so-called uh, expenses. Instead, they still continue to draw down the old folks for expense. Their old folks saving. So if we, as the so-called the retiree, cannot manage this type of situation, you will be put in a very bad shape before long. Not to say you're talking about 30 years into retirement or 20 years into retirement. Maybe even 5 years in your retirement, you'll find that you will have to struggle to make ends meet, and maybe you have to rejoin the workforce to able to manage your expenses. If some of us, if you are traveling or you used to visit the Singapore airport, you know, sometimes you'll come across comments by foreigners or by visitors that, hey, how come Singapore, all the old uncle, auntie working as in the airport, clearing the tray, clearing the trolley, or sweeping the area, or cleaning the toilets. Say, hey, in our country, when we retire, really, not to say it's very far in China or especially in China, when they hit retirement, they just retire and then, huh? Say again? They have a certain like CPF scheme or certain scheme, so they will continue. Yeah. So, I mean, especially I mean, in China also they have this scheme. Of course, Japan, of course, they also have the scheme already. So they will find that, or of course, even the foreigners and the Europeans, Australians, all these, they will also so-called puzzle. Why in a so-called like a wealthy country or a supposedly wealthy country like Singapore, all the old uncle aunties are still working so hard. They should be so-called enjoying their life and take it easy, rather take it easy. Of course they can still work, but not so frequent and like it's like their normal work like that. Like similar to before your retirement period. That means it seems to them that there may be something wrong that these people, some people they think it's something wrong that you know we do not have a proper like those pension fund or CPF to allow these people to fall back on when they retire. Of course, if they investigate further, they will probably understand that there are also people who say that if I don't work or I don't do something, I will kick the bucket faster because every day you have nothing so-called look forward to, or nothing that is constructive or something that for you to do. So it is like the famous Chinese saying, 等死, waiting to die like that. There's no programs or certain activities that occupy their mind, so that take them away from the so-called the idle mind, which is going to be a devil's workshop. So they will find that, hey, no meaning lah. Every day you have to wake up, eat something, walk around. So there will be like quite a challenge if they don't have a good program to so-called make them to be part of it. So right now, the under Singapore, this we find the what a lot of social organization, community health organization are setting up all these, even government-linked organizations are setting up all these daycare center or senior activity center to help the senior to have a place to participate in activities. Can be play mahjong, read newspaper, watch TV, or can do some exercises, or can play game, or at least be part of a group, so that every day they like going to work, like children going to kindergarten to study, they come to the activity center to have activity, and then they may be provided with one hot meal per day or something at least, so that to keep them at the center, occupy for their day. So at least they have some meaning for them to continue to live and to enjoy the life. Okay, next, the plan for healthcare costs. In the year 2015 survey, Singapore elderly healthcare cost was 11,310 per person per annum. So you divide by 12, it's almost how much? About 900 plus. 11310 divided by 12, about $942 per month. Healthcare cost. It means to visit the doctor, to get medication, or we are go for so-called physiotherapy, or we go for certain treatment. So work out to be, you have to spend this amount. In year 2019, 2015, they survey, they already found that you need this amount for medical, for the elderly healthcare cost. So, and it was projected to rise 10 times to about 51,000 something by 2030. So you can imagine, rise by in addition, there is indirect costs such as transportation and of course opportunity cost of caregivers' time. On this topic, I personally experienced meeting some of my ex-classmates or fellow students when we're together studying. Some of them even graduate from poly or from the U. Some of them, they really sacrifice. They don't really got married because there are other siblings. They allowed them, or their other siblings got married, formed family unit, or some of them sacrifice. Some may be man or lady. They sacrifice. They led a bachelor or spinster life just in order to take care of the old father or old mother, which quite often has so-called some need long-term care. So they have to bring them for consultation with the hospital, follow-up of this and that, and they have to collect the medication. And then if the aged parents are not so-called so mobile, or they have inability to do some basic things like cooking or washing, all these things. So you have to care for them by washing or cooking, in addition to bringing them to for medical consultation. Of course, along the way, for those who are working and working for companies or organizations, so the Singapore government has emphasized that we have to contribute to a CPF, Central Provident Fund, during your working period, which is jointly contributed by the employer as well as the employee. And with that, at least you have a compulsory saving. So this compulsory saving, as you in your old age or while you are not so old, you also can make use of this medical save. Now they call it MediSave fund to be used to cover your medical expenses, or can be outpatient services, can be minor day surgery, or can be even worse, more serious case, hospitalization. And of course, outpatient fees also is part of that. I share with you that today, this morning, I went for my blood test or health screening test, blood test and urine test, which was fixed about about a year ago. For this so-called fasting type of blood test, you have to try to do the early morning, because otherwise you will be suffering for more hours before you can break your fast. So I try to use the cheapest method, go to the polyclinic. My appointment is 7:30, but 7 o'clock when the polyclinic is open, the doors are open. Wow, I can see that there are so many senior citizens or elderly people. Some able-bodied, I mean like myself, can walk. Many of them are accompanied by caregiver. Some are on wheelchair. Some are with walking aids. So I look at it. Wow, really give me a feedback of really the Singapore elderly. It's quite good numbers nowadays. Practically, I mean, you go to the train station, the bus, or even the hawker center, you can see that you will come across more elderly people patronizing this area. So, here in the polyclinic, we can see more because that is the area that the concentration of elderly people who need medical attention or support will be more. So it's really quite a sight. If you have not been to these places, you will not appreciate when the newspaper or when a lot of reports are being highlighting that the healthcare cost of the older folks, the senior, is getting more and more higher. And then in some cases, I was told some of them, even like last time, my mother-in-law, she lived up to passed off 1 year ago at the age of 96 or what. She also complained that, I said, why don't you just let me die? Every day like that, I so many drugs to take, and then wheelchair bound and all things. Like in a way, life is the quality of life is no longer there. So we say between living and dying, for them it's not much different. They say it's better that they just knock off and then that's it, you know. And then they also uh, concern of our, I mean, for a case in terms of medical care and so-called the funding of the medical department is not an issue. I mean, we engage a helper to personally supervise or take care of her. But then, for such a person to be able to enjoy their so-called retirement life or the quality of life is not there anymore. So it's become a very challenging. So right now, Singapore government has been beside the CPF, they also have additional thing. CPF is to take care of the first layer, right? So second layer is the MediShield Life Basic. This is to cover the more larger hospital bills, like in case people got those kidney failure or those have cancer treatment, chemotherapy. So these are second layer where some of the long-term so-called medical bills will be there. So they are having this basic life insurance care have to support it. Otherwise, if without that, the drain on the person's CPF will be quite bad. Of course, for those who can afford, you can have another layer. You can buy additional medical or hospitalization insurance to supplement the basic health care. Like, of course, some people go to hospital, they can only afford the Class C ward or the common ward. Some prefer Class B ward, where the number of people in the room is lesser. And of course, those who really can afford, they will have a private room with private bathroom attached type of standard. You know? So this is again what type of quality of healthcare you wish to enjoy. All right, next, also sometime in June, mid June 2019, there was a household budget study by LKY School of Policy, Public Policy, and a follow-up survey commissioned by the Switzerland has once again raised an important question. Are Singaporeans or Singapore senior equipped for retirement? So the study found that a single senior will need at least about 1,004 a month to make basic needs. And the Swiss Sun survey found that 41% of the retirees in 2019, that means about 3 years ago, 2021, yeah, about 3 years ago. About 41% of the retired do not have such fund in retirement. So among this group, 28% say they fall short by at least half the recommended amount. So you can maybe find that very this one is talking about basic need. In your retirement age, we're talking about basic need, you need about 1,004 a month. So if you have additional needs like long-term type of health medication, or you need certain type of treatment, or you need special diet type of style, because you cannot eat common food, you need a special diet. So imagine if they will be add on to the basic 1,004, you may need maybe 1,006 or more to live. So that means, let's say about 100 people, 41 people do not have such fund in their retirement. They don't have just saving in their retirement fund. And even 28% say that they don't even have half. So imagine 3 years ago, this survey already picked up these so-called hard facts of life, that how many of us or how many of the people in the population, no doubt this is a sample, it also quite representative of the, the big picture. So if the government cannot afford or cannot do more to take care of this so-called 40%, so you can imagine what will happen to our so-called old folks home or the retirement home or old folks home and all those things, or all those places where all the retirees have to live. You will find that we will be burdened with a lot of this kind of social or healthcare costs. And together with this social or healthcare cost, you need to have a, have a trained type of caregiver to manage or take care of them. And this trained or medically trained caregiver is another so-called healthcare cost that the public or the government has to take care. So you can imagine the total burden on the whole society can be quite huge. So you can imagine now, or you can probably understand why our so-called our health promotion board. I don't know whether any of you participate in any of the health promotion board activities. They are they give you the what I call the tracker, 365, and now they also encourage you by some incentive to participate in the program. Now, last time all the 365 activities are all do on site. That means at basketball court or community center and everything. Right now, they also have introduced it because of Zoom after COVID. Now available on Zoom also. So I noticed now lately my wife signed up for the 365 every low impact those aerobic. Oh, you can do at home, low impact aerobic. So Oh, mute. Oh, sorry. Can you hear now? Okay, sorry. System haven't resumed. Yeah. Yes, yes, can. Yeah, just now after the reset, then we forget to unmute. So, okay. I was just talking about Okinawa, the article, the documentary I watched over TV, that why the people, the Japanese in Okinawa Island, they continue to live so much longer than others. A very good example is like in Singapore, everywhere we go, we have a lot of escalator. And everybody, whether old folks or young folks, everyone will use the escalator instead of the staircase. But in Okinawa, even to cross the pedestrian crossing from one side of the road, overhead bridge to the other side, they don't have escalator, they don't have this like the lift, no? Like in Singapore, we have lift to bring you up for those wheelchair bound. After you go the other side, you take a lift down. In Okinawa, no. Everybody is forced somehow to climb the staircase and climb down the staircase. So as a result, you have accepted that way of the lifestyle that way. But in Singapore, we have accepted our lifestyle in this way of convenience and comfort. So in a way, it also make us lazier. So we also don't exercise our limbs and legs so often because you have so many convenience way of transportation and human mover type of equipment available. So I was talking about, as a result, now you can see that because Singaporeans of good healthcare, so those who are used to be 65, you can go up to 80 or even 90. So if effectively, we should be mentally prepared to live a longer retirement period of maybe 30 years or more. So in order to able to survive that long period, we have to plan to how to use your money, so-called, to live to this period. Otherwise, if we become so-called drawn down, we have no more money, then, or you outlive your saving, then more and more of us will have to rely on the Singapore government social welfare for the income. And now the Singapore government, the social welfare is very smart also. They have outsourced this part of this social welfare management group activities to the so-called all those homes, many religious homes or Lion Club, those homes, everything. They say, okay, every year we will give you a budget, I will subsidize you with a certain amount of money for funding. And then the rest you have to do fundraising to manage the homes and all things. So in a sense that they also want to like wash their hands out. They don't want to be 100% be dependent by the population. They want the population to take care of, to so-called self-help type of approach to solve this problem. Okay, another point is that since we are going to expect to live longer, there are certain kind of insurance scheme. They call it annuities. That means instead of just leaving your money in your uh, bank account, so you buy some sort of annuity, whereby you will cover your income needs, especially your essential expenses like food, housing, insurance, to so-called to make the money work for you lah. You know, you buy certain annuity program. You may also want to use some of your retirement saving to purchase an income annuity. It will help you create a simple and efficient stream of income payment that are guaranteed for as long as you and your spouse live. So there are now, previously the government want the private insurance company to get involved in this sort of thing, but I think it has found that it's not so successful. So right now, government has come back to take back his responsibility to provide some sort of annuity program for people at a very low cost or very minimal cost, because they say they found that the insurance company cannot make money. Definitely they will not continue in these sort of activities. Okay, next point. This point is that is I think most concerned now by the government, the consumer price index, or CPI. And last time in my previous talk, I also mentioned about the CPI doesn't just record the house, the cheapest product of NTUC, It is actually, the figure is composed of a basket of goods of about 6,600 brands and varieties of items, and the prices are surveyed up based on about 4,200 outlets across Singapore. So the CPI, or consumer price index, is published every month, and it is an indicator of how much inflation is happening in our country. So when we say this year's CPI, basically we are measuring our consumer price index versus the previous year, right? So it means 1 year ago, like now is September, right? Or October. So if we say the CPI of Singapore at September 2020, that means they're comparing again September 2021. That means 1 year ago exactly what was the consumer price index. So there's the difference between this year and last year, and that will give you an indication of the annual inflation rate in Singapore.
What is the figure? 2, 3, or 100, 105?
Okay.
CPI index.
Okay. So they measure and tell you what's the inflation that they are having. On average, Singapore previously annual inflation is less than 3%, sometimes 1%, 1.5%. But lately, it's getting quite serious. Okay, look at Singapore inflation rate, all items in CPI. So if they consider all items, the inflation is this year averaging from 5.4 to 7.5. So average over these 6 months is about 6.26%. If you compare the inflation, not counting rent or rental income, rental and car, the inflation is only 2 point something, average about from 2.9 to 5.1. That means about 4 over 4 point, slightly more than 4%. These figures are from MAS. So inflation year, you compare exactly 1 year ago, what was it? They saw the inflation. So right now, especially for the inflation hitting us most is oil and gas. Our electricity, our gasoline. You see, you are driving a car, you can see you top up the petrol, how much the oil prices have gone up.
Yeah.
So as a result,
OPEC also try to increase it.
so and also the electricity bill. Not many people. Actually, for a small country like Singapore, we can do away with driving a car in a sense if your business or your particular activity do not require you to drive, because you can we have quite efficient bus system and MRT system to serve you. Not unlike a big country like not to be very far. You go across the causeway. If you want to move from one point to another point, you don't drive. You know the waiting time for the bus is quite challenging.
Not regular.
And then it is not so frequent, also not so regular, and that's why you can find that our because sad to say because of we have such an efficient system and safe country, so a lot of rich people and foreigners who are having difficulty because of COVID and all these things, they all decided to come to live in Singapore now. So you can see all our prices are going to go up, continue to climb up. Your rental, you go up, the car prices go up, all the so-called the luxurious item that the rich people can afford will be going to continue to climb up. For like just now, that day I was exercising along near the MRT station. So I used to say hello to the cleaner. So the other cleaner tell me,你去個嗰個頭先我食飯啊，嗰個賣菜嘅，哇！我食兩地紅豆腐啊，差數1.8塊啊，哇！嗰食人啊，太人啊，嗰個 two piece he said he just order extra 2 pieces of 紅豆腐 cost him additional $1.80 so he said wow so expensive. Just now I try also I go eat 紅豆腐 also 2 fish ball also $1.80. So you can imagine really inflation is hitting us. Huh?
No, you tambah the egg,
you order the normal one.
additional egg is 150. Additional egg 150.
Oh,
Basic.
oh, the package one
No, you just order say 2 vegetable, 1 rice or 1 meat. But let's say they give you a basic no extra meats. They're very expensive.
oh.
For one meat and one extra fish, the one is expensive.
Because I was at Parkway, right? 2 veggie and 1 meat, 570. Cheap.
How much?
570.
570.
Oh, Parkway.
No, your 570 not expensive. My kopitiam there also around there. Now, those compared to last year, so you can see, you can feel it now. Singapore inflation, all items in CPI, as compared to last year, we have increased on average 7%. So you can definitely.
This is due to the war, because not Singapore, everywhere, the whole world. In Europe, it's worse.
The thing is, for Singapore, everything is imported. We don't grow our own vegetables, so it's definitely understandable. But because of oil prices is so high, we have to move the goods from one point to another and all these things. So definitely our impact will be very great because of all these transportation costs.
Our transportation actually not severe because we are doing import export. When we do import export, we siphon out some of the export to our local consume, but we still export out. So the cost actually subdivided.
The oil,
No, the transport fee. transport fee because we do import export. So they, by the way, they still come to Singapore to do exchange. So we only consume a small portion of it, okay? But the last one will still go. So in the sense that we do pay for the whole,
the full sum.
the full sum. You know, when I'm in Brunei, I ask them, why the thing is so expensive? They say nobody want to send them. You send them, okay, is all the whole shipment. So total cost.
Nobody will send them, send what?
All the goods
Sell things to them. When selling to Brunei, so that the landed cost of the vegetable or the chicken will be cost of the item plus the cost of transportation. Because they don't re-export the chicken to somewhere else, so that they don't share out the cost. So they have to absorb the full amount of cost. Cost inflation, everything check it out.
We import, we don't export again.
No, we do export.
We do export, definitely.
No, we do re-export.
Re-export?
Yeah,
No, because Singapore is a hub, it's a hub. So when the thing comes, okay, Singapore, we take what we want, then we export it back to the regions. I mean the Southeast Asia regions. We export out.
So we import vegetables from Malaysia. We consume.
No, those are Malaysia is no choice.
What are things we export? We import and export again. What are things?
No, those are, you see, the Malaysia one is normal.
How about chicken? Chicken, we import chicken.
Frozen chicken we import from even Brazil. Imagine a fry or something.
Oh, and then we export again.
No,
Frozen chicken.
frozen chicken.
So what are things we import? Eat a bit.
No, because like example, our airlines, like we import things, we supply to the airlines, those people take the airline, they will consume the thing, they will absorb some of the cost of this that we use. Because like we bring all the chicken, we don't eat everything, we some cook, supply to the airline, supply to the ship, supply to all the vessels calling on Singapore port. So example, we are not oil producing country, but we make a lot of money to re-export our oil. Our
We do
Refined item.
Refine.
Singapore is we want a refinery hub. So a lot of crude oil come to Singapore, then we do refine, then we become fuel, and then we actually export out the fuel.
So we're going to do business. But food now, we actually consume the food. We sell to the airline, we cannot consider
No,
it
the
as
thing
re-export.
is, we are not, end point of the food.
the supply chain don't end here.
The supply chain don't end here, no.
We
Let's say
take
Brazil send 100%, okay, shipment come. Singapore only maybe take 30%.
We re-export
30%. Then the 70% will actually go out to somewhere else where they have business dealing with, maybe Southeast Asia, maybe other part of the world. Okay. So, but the whole ship is coming towards us. So
passing to Singapore.
Yes.
same as last time when the COVID medication also. The Singapore was one of the distribution points. The COVID medicine come here, we take what our share, then we send to Australia, send other countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Australia, I talk to those merchants in Australia. They always send the thing to Singapore. Okay, although the thing is to US, but they send through Singapore.
Then to US.
Send to US. Okay, because Australia only have 3 days. They have 1 week, 3 times. They have direct shipping to US. Okay, but Singapore every day we have shipping vessel to US. So they need to ship out their goods every day. So they cannot say that today produce and then 3 days later they send. Cannot, right? So they send through Singapore. the thing was sent to Singapore. Singapore will actually redistribute, and then we got other vessels to send to the US. So the shipping delay is not very long. They say it's another day only. Add one more day. So one more day to them is acceptable.
This one is like transit.
Yeah.
It's transit because the ship is big and carry everything. Then you go back and go another place. And we don't make much money out of it. Unless there's a business, I import and I mark up and I export.
Yeah, but the thing is,
somebody order already,
yeah,
the ship
no, but we only consume certain percentage of it,
right? Because that talent deliver the ship come from Australia to Singapore, let's say. If whatever Japan offshore side come to Singapore, is due to Vietnam, whatever all unload, then he proceed to maybe Suez Canal. He don't go all the place, just like MRT like that. Everything from Australia come to Singapore, then go to.
Nowadays, all paperwork. Things don't come to Singapore. It pass to Singapore, it's all paperwork only.
No,
not
true. And then go to another ship.
No, I understand.
Depending, there are cases that is wholesale move up, but there are a lot of cases that transshipment hub. You see, that's why the container ship, you go and study PSA, they have a lot of documentary talking about. They load in the goods, depending when they come here, which are the goods that are going to be discharged in Singapore and which will be onward to another country. And then Singapore will pick up those transshipment, like from Indonesia or those other nearby countries, those so-called they call the feeder shipment, who come here, consolidate with our big ship and move to the final destination in Europe or US. So they will discharge and top up with other cargoes to move on. So that's why we come.
You don't need to send a whole container. Okay, the ship, let's say the ship from say Europe side, okay, let's say Netherlands, okay, Netherlands they come to Singapore, and then they eventually maybe you want to ship to China, okay, but they don't actually, now they have some container they want to go to US, so they cannot go China then go US. So they will
containers.
So they will actually change the other ship where we were ship bound to US, then we go to US then the ship most of the thing will go to China So Singapore will take on some other thing that go to China also. So it will take to China
Many years ago, Singapore really big a lot. Thankfully, from back to the Vietnam.
Because we are anthropo trade, anthropo.
Singapore is a great trading port. All the tank containers, 9 containers are out of here. But now, if Japan supply here, they want people know direct Singapore tank. They give it to them, but Bangkok, they break up themselves. Now, but sometimes certain things is cheaper to Singapore and go out at that certain time. Singapore will benefit. But those 2 days Singapore was. Because Singapore, rather it's everywhere. When I said, come to Singapore, I said to India, not India send back to India.
Now China they step up like this Shanghai the port, the 90-year-old port.
Now a lot of China thing, they also do the same way. Get all the rules is set in Singapore. Singapore sets. That is why they do that. But Singapore, I think, got a decision to be sent to us. This is called trading. Singapore is trading. But
we are more efficient now. Whatever you come in, you can do it very fast and cheaper somehow.
But certain thing they won't give Singapore agency rights. We don't have the agency right.
Okay, shall we continue here?
Continue.
Otherwise, those we are at home or online cannot hear anything. So this point is very real. So our purchasing power or your saving because of inflation really is hitting you going to be quite bad. So they'll eat away your purchasing power or your money over time. Inflation affects your retirement income by increasing the future cost of goods and services, thereby reducing the future purchasing power of your income. Even a relatively low inflation rate can have a significant impact on your retirees' purchasing power. So in the past, Singapore so-called average the inflation rate is about less than 3%. The CPF, all this they calculate and the insurance company calculate. So in fact, it's about slightly more than 1%, 2%. Now we are going to suffer because the inflation rate is no longer going to be less than 3%. It will be continue maybe in that level already. If because of this high price of oil and also the basic goods, because of the war that caused the basic goods going to be very expensive. So consider cost of living. So social security in overseas they call social security. Ours is more like CPF because we are co-paying. And certain pensions and annuities to help keep up with inflation through annual cost of living adjustment or market-related performance. Choosing investment that have potential to keep pace with inflation, such as growth-oriented investment, example stocks or stocks mutual fund, real estate securities, diversified portfolio that also help reflect your risk tolerance and financial circumstances. Right. So we have to move on a bit faster. Position investment for growth. So an investment strategy, that means asset mix that seeks to balance growth potential and risk return volatility may be the answer. So you should determine and consider maintain an asset mix that reflects your investment horizon, risk tolerance, and financial situation. Of course, this applies to those people who have a bigger pool of money to protect. Because if you have bigger pool of money, then you can partition your money that some portion that can help to balance out this to cater for the basic needs, and some you can take a higher risk, like involved in certain instrument that give you more return than those conservative investment. So on balance, your investment returns should able to overcome the inflation, all this, so that your net impact, your money will not become smaller. It will still maintain the purchasing power. Find investment make with the right amount of growth potential and risk for yourself. Okay, next one. This one is just now the one inflation, all these things, sometimes is not easy, not within your control because it's worldwide situation. But things within your control is how fast you spend your saving. If you spend your saving so-called at a rate that the drawdown is quite substantial compared to your size of your saving, then you will run out. Instead of 30 years, maybe 10 years time you will run out. So for this reason, we believe retirees should consider using conservative withdrawal rate, particularly any money needed for essential expenses. I don't know whether for some of us, they are familiar or they have experienced it. If you also get involved in the community and social work, you will have received such a feedback from some of these elderly, like the day the Mooncake Festival or the Mid-Autumn Festival period. So we give away ang pao and so goodie bag to some old folks along Jalan Besar area. So I was involved giving out early. So under the Lion Cup one. So the auntie who received it, he was very grateful. He said, this ang pao will help me to last for the next 2 months. He said, for the general expenses. The ang pao was $50. He said, will help her to last for the next 2 months. So you can imagine for the lower income people or the poor group, any amount of saving or any amount of additional so-called income to them is really a blessing. For them, it's really a blessing. They are very thankful for all these things. So in a way, we should so-called have this mentality. If you can afford to give, try to give some to help others, because for you, you may spend a little bit less on certain things, but for this low-income group, it's really very thankful when they receive such a donation or gift from us. So we did map looking at history and stimulating many potential outcomes and landed on this guideline. To be confident that saving will last for next 20 or 30 years without your retirement life, we should consider withdrawing no more than 4 or 5% of your saving in the first year of retirement. Then adjust that percentage for inflation in subsequent years. This is what they have did the mathematics to come up.
Just down.
Adjust or down.
You can say, put all your money back to the CPF and interest. You don't worry.
I say there's another.
No, we go in, then you want, then you go slowly, you go after your 70, after 70. Yeah.
No. You can draw down everything you want. No, that I teach you. Now there are so many methods to do it.
Oh, you buy a year. I think you buy a year.
My friend, no,
You buy a year too, what?
And yearly,
Yeah, another insurance, something like insurance is you pay one shot, then next time you draw down. Every month you draw like a certain amount.
What's the recognition?
Huh?
You carry out the
So definitely you can do it after devoting many years to saving and investing of your retirement. Switching from saving to spending the money can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be that way. You take steps leading up to and during retirement to manage these key 5 rules of thumb of your retirement. Main thing is you in a way sometimes you try and error. So your first year you may buy this, buy that. Then later you look back, hey, I buy already, I never use. You didn't use. So should you be buying, right? And also sometimes, take for example, like especially among the Chinese, I don't, maybe other races also, a lot of things, sometimes we spend certain money, all to so-called save face one, like you give ang pao, you give certain amount to save face must be more than the other time, or you do a lot of things like just for the mentality of showing that you can afford like that. So if we so-called do things in a very more practical way, just like in Japan, when the staff or colleague go out to eat together, the boss, so somebody will settle the bill, and then they will straight away divide. Okay, whether your boss or secretary or then some divide equally. Each share how much? Straight away collect back.
That happened in Australia, so in India.
Ah,
I remember when I was in Australia, the bill come, say 200, divide by 8. Because the bill is I pay, this is what, but Singapore never practice, the bosses will pay.
Singapore actually pay off.
huh?
Our say,
No, that's why these are called
Dutch rate.
no the what I call social pressure or this type of practices. If you adopt this type of so-called like equal share, why should you unless you got a certain reason to want to treat people? Otherwise, every night then we go out together. Myself, unless I say I want to buy you a treat this time. You specifically say that, then okay, you feel like offering other money. Otherwise, you practice like in Japan, in Europe, all
Dutch, or Dutch.
double Dutch, yeah.
Not only Japan, Australia also, Italy also.
Huh?
They do that.
Singapore also.
Singapore also do.
So if you really practice,
Google app also like that one. Google Pay, you can speak.
so you practice like that, go Dutch, then more or less you so-called square out lah. You then incur thing that you only incur thing your share like you go Dutch, you only pay for your share and not pay for other people's share. So in the same, you are able, you can manage your expenses accordingly lah. So saving is one thing, but managing is the most important thing. Right? So example, if some people used to have the habit of going to a high-class restaurant or atas, you go one time, you say, okay, I got the experience already. I think it's enough. I don't need to go every time must be atas. You can just go the average. That's good enough. Right? Atas one is mainly the service, the ambient, the environment, or what. People call you, yes sir, Mr. Everything, address you by your surname, something like that. I remember your name very well because you favor a team. But one good thing, at least in our country, in Singapore, Malaysia, we no need to be so-called worried about paying tips.
Included in the bill nowadays.
Yeah, but
service charge, service charge.
Yes, only on the previous one.
I mean, you go US, the taxi driver, the bill so much, 15% more, you have to pay for the tips, no? I mean, taxi, you already providing a service already, then you still service charge on top of the taxi bill. So suddenly we have come to the end of the slide. So essentially, this sharing session is to tell us that be aware or conscious of how you manage your retirement income. Of course, certain factors are controllable and certain factors maybe not so easily controllable, like the economic environment, the inflation, all these things is not controllable by you. But how you draw down and how often you spend your money on luxurious versus essential goods, and how you take care of your personal health by cultivating good so-called lifestyle habits that can definitely help you to go along a happier way. Of course, if you are richer, you can request for higher quality of life. But if you are not so well off, then you cannot demand those quality life that people enjoy. Then you may have to go for the basic so-called quality of life. Right? Even sometimes basic quality of life, a lot of people also cannot afford. Like basic quality, like I say, you need to have 3 meals per day or what. Some people, 1 meal take care of the 3 meals. So basically they eat one solid, maybe lunch or dinner, and then the rest of the time they just go by with a simple liquid water or juice only. So Especially you look at our foreign workers. The foreign workers, I saw them, they buy or cook one packet of curry with vegetables and all things. So the same thing they will eat for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. That's all, but they eat with a lot of rice, a lot of carbo, because they need a lot of energy. So for them, that is the so-called basic and the quality of life they can expect. Rather than go hunger. I mean, back home when they don't have a job or don't have a thing, they go on hunger, worse off. So
you mentioned say this percent, but actually how do you go about? You need some expert, maybe like you, to sit down with a person and then to know how much he has. So it's like a planner,
financial planner.
So you need a financial planner. Is there a financial planner? Google has got a website or not? How to go about with it?
Okay.
Because to get you, sometimes become very personal.
Right now, if you have some money in your bank, you go and look at your bank. Your bank now are very friendly. Inside, they have a lot of things in the, like example, DBS Bank. They have a lot of so-called financial planning kind of activities that you can do. They can analyze for you on average 1 month how you spend on food, transportation, and whatever thing they really have the data for you.
All very busy.
No, on your website. No, you can go your account there inside
you run the app?
all inside. We no need to study.
Are you able to show
OCBC?
Every
able to show for example now?
is you go and look at, you go and open there. Digibank, you go inside Digibank, you can see everything. No. No, they have your bank account there. And then just now I found out also about the now MAS. They already tie up with all your bank account. You can work out totally. That means including your CPF.
You want to find bank, you can put up.
No. You have to sign in using your SingPass. So your CPF portion, your what? If now you look under your personal what I call the one.
Can have a Mr. X has so much money and this is how he does it. Is there a sample?
Yes. Inside the bank there they have.
Which website?